So, my name's Brett Lloyd. I'm in a group with Brant Perry, John Priest, and Lindsay Jessup. They will be presenting a little bit later. For our research project, we chose to research the proficiency of basic life support in Utah Valley University students with majors not related to healthcare. Like I said, my name's Brett. I'll be going through the introduction. Brant will then take over and go over the methods. Lindsay's going to go over the results of the research. I will then go over the discussion, and John will end us in the conclusion. So just to give us a little bit of a introduction to the research and why we wanted to do the research. As we know, basic life support is the first line of care provided to a person suffering an acute life-threatening event. We found an article that was titled Basic Life Support Learning in Undergraduate Students of Sports Sciences, Efficacy of 150 Minutes of Training and Retention After 8 months. This study was done with university students majoring in sports sciences, and after their initial training, 96% of their study participants achieved a global CPR performance scores of greater than 70%, which shows that they are proficient in performing CPR. However, the knowledge retention of BLS 8 months post-training decreased significantly. In another article titled Evaluation of Public Awareness, Knowledge, and Attitudes towards Basic Life Support, researchers administered a survey asking individuals if they've received CPR training and just their feelings in general towards CPR. In this study, they stated 23% of participants have witnessed cardiac arrests. Among those, only 10% gave compressions, and 10% gave mouth-to-mouth breathing. And then only 8.6% gave both compressions and mouth-to-mouth breathing. So we decided that the purpose of this research is to determine the incidence of satisfactory knowledge concerning BLS concepts in students who have declared majors in non-healthcare related areas. And after doing some research, we did find that there has been some similar research done, but they typically deal with different populations, and our research will be done at more recent time. So it's important that we do this research because it will help fill the gaps in knowledge surrounding BLS concepts. So to carry out the research, a comparison will be made between the intervention group and a controlled group, which consists of those students with declared majors pertaining to healthcare. We hypothesize that due to the BLS exposure, students desiring a degree in healthcare-related areas will have more knowledge of BLS concepts compared to those who are in a non-healthcare related major and we expect those students to not have a lot of exposure to BLS, and so that's why we're expecting them to score lower than those who are in healthcare fields that will have exposure to BLS.
Right. Again, my name is Brant Perry, like Brett introduced me. So covering the method section, there's quite a bit to unpack here. The methodology for our research project kind of changed over the course of our initial research into doing research studies in general. However, at first we needed to define the research question. We did that using the PICO formatting tool. Now, the PICO formatting tool is just a common and easy way to further refine a research question by defining your population, your intervention, your control, as well as the expected outcomes for the research that you're going to be doing. So for our research question, our population was students enrolled at Utah Valley University in various declared majors, anywhere from art, engineering, humanities, to nursing, respiratory therapy, and emergency medical services, so like paramedics and stuff. Our intervention, we are just going to do a cross-sectional study of sorts through the administration of a survey, which we developed on SurveyMonkey, which is an internet-based survey creating software program. Our control, we are going to use a population of students who have had BLS training before as our control group, because we expect in the outcomes that in our survey response and our data analysis that individuals with previous BLS training are going to have a higher incidence of BLS proficiency when they take the quiz or when they perform the survey that we give them. So our research design is a pre-experimental static group comparison. We didn't actually deliver any intervention to one group. We didn't give any instruction. We didn't give any education on basic life support to either group. We just were basically collecting information from the survey and testing each group for BLS proficiency. The intervention group, again, consisted of 100 students with declared majors in art, engineering, technology, humanities and social science, business, science, education, and university studies. Our control group consisted of 100 students with declared majors provided by the College of Health and Public Service, specifically nursing, respiratory therapy, dental hygiene, the paramedics, so emergency medical services. So after we administered the survey, we did so through kind of stationing in different areas of UVU campus and soliciting for participation from random passerbys who were interested in participating in the study. So we used the descriptive analysis techniques as far as analyzing our results to describe the control and intervention groups. We used the measures of central tendency like the mean, the median, and the mode for average quiz scores, median quiz scores. And when I mention quiz scores, I am referencing the 20 questions in the survey, which were all exam type questions with one correct answer. Then we used the standard deviation to provide a measure of variance in the data set to kind of give more context into how spread out our data was from all of the different participants. Lastly, with our data analysis, we use the chi-squared test of independence. This test is used to determine if there's any relation between two variables, and its basic definition is the chi-squared test is used to determine if the null hypothesis, which in this case is that proficiency in BLS concepts and skills, is independent of any BLS training experience, whether we can reject that or we have to accept that null hypothesis. So for us, we were hoping to reject that, which we will discuss later on in our results section. But it's important that we did the chi-squared test because the data that we were receiving from these survey responses were descriptive data, and so we could not use the independent t-test or the independent samples t-test. We also couldn't use the Mann and Whitney U-test due to both of those tests requiring continuous data, and so we were constrained to the chi-square test of independence. So that is our methods.
According to the American Heart Association, a passing score for the BLS exam is 84%, and passing score for the survey questions was 17 out of 20, which is 85%. So a chi-square test of independence showed that two groups were independent of one another. Individuals that received BLS training were statistically independent of those who did not receive BLS training, and then their proficiency in BLS concept and skills. So our analysis of the survey responses for health-related majors, the mean was 17.4, the mode was 17, medium 17, and the standard deviation was 1.140. For non-health related majors, the mean was 11.2, mode was 13, median was 12, and the standard deviation was 2.168. And then for our next slide, this is the results for the health-related majors. The control group consisted of 100 UVU students in the College of Health and Public Service. Of the 100 participants in the control group, 40 participants were nursing students, 30 were dental hygienist students, 10 were paramedic students, and 20 were respiratory therapy students. All participants answered the 20-question multiple choice survey, and no responses were excluded from the data. The mean score for the control group was 17.4 out of 20, with the standard deviation being 1.140. And in this graph, you can see that 75%, 30 out of 40 of the nursing students obtained a score greater than or equal to the mean score. 25%, or 10 out of 40, did not pass. 43%, 13 out of 30, of the dental hygienist students met or exceeded the mean score. 56%, or 17 out of 30, did not pass. 70%, or 7 out of 10, of paramedic students obtained a score above or equal to the mean score. 30%, or 3 out of 10, did not pass. 90%, 18 out of 20, of the respiratory therapy students obtained a score above or equal to the mean score. 20%, or 2 out of 10, did not pass. And then the next slide goes over our non-health related majors, and the intervention group consisted of 100 UVU students that majors did not relate to healthcare. Of the 100 participants in the research group, 30 participants were business students, 10 were humanities and social science students, 15 were science students, 15 were engineer and technology students, 10 were art students, 10 were education students, and 10 were general education students. All the participants answered the 20-question multiple choice survey questions. No responses were excluded from the data. The mean score for the research group was 11.2 out of 20 questions, with a standard deviation of 2.168. And then this is sorry, I'm trying to get the laser pointer. Over here, this graph, it shows those students who got above the mean. So 12 were above the mean for business and so on. And then this graph goes over how many students actually passed in each major. And so 20%, or 6 out of 30, of the business students obtain a score that would indicate proficiency in BLS concept and skills. And then 20%, or 2 out of 10, of the humanities and social science students obtain a score that would indicate proficiency in BLS concept and skills. And then 53%, or 8 out of 5, of science students obtained a score that would indicate proficiency in BLS concept and skills. 53%, or 8 out of 15, of engineer and technology students obtained a score that would indicate proficiency in BLS concept and skills. And then 10% of our students, or 1 out of 10, obtain a score that would indicate proficiency in BLS concept and skills. And then 50%, or 5 out of 10, of education students obtained a score that would indicate proficiency in BLS concept and skills. And then 20%, or 2 out of 10, of general education students obtained a score that would indicate proficiency in BLS concept and skills. And so we can see science students and engineering technology students had the most students that obtained a score indicating proficiency in BLS. They both had 8. And then art had a 1, indicating only 1 student got a score.
Okay, now I'm just going to go over a little bit of the discussion we had regarding those results. So we did predict that due to the lack of exposure to BLS trainings, few students in non-health related majors would be proficient in BLS and its application. The survey has practical implications, but its purpose was to not necessarily determine the skill of one's ability in BLS, but more the knowledge of BLS concepts. The outcome of the research showed a difference in the incidence of BLS comprehension between the students in non-health related majors and the students in health-related majors. As the results show, a mean score of 17.4 was obtained for those in a healthcare-related program showing proficiency in BLS knowledge, compared to those who had other majors declared only obtained a mean score of 11.2, showing a lack of proficiency in BLS knowledge. As our prediction stated, these results align with our prediction that due to the lack of exposure to BLS training, few students in non-health related majors would have proficiently understood BLS concepts and the application of BLS. We do know there are results indicating that certain healthcare majors were more proficient in BLS knowledge than others. There are also results showing that non-healthcare related majors differed in their results depending on what major they had, and to understand why this is happening between the majors, we would need to do further research. We also understand that the sample size was not large enough to have significant statistical power. We also understand that the survey was only done on 1 class during 1 semester of students, and we also understood and expected to not have 100% participation. As we come to a conclusion to the small research project we've done, we have determined that the study is continued and brought in to include more participants over a longer period of time, and in doing so, the study will have more statistical power.
It is shown through our research that there is a definite disparity between the participants and the control group. As we can see here, on average, the non-health related participants scored 6.2 points less out of 20 as compared to the control group. I think that's a big deal, especially only out of 20 points, you're 6.2 points less on average. That's quite the disparity. Now, there are several implications that would need to be researched, and certain research designs could test this hypothesis. But with a decreased knowledge of BLS skills comes a greater possibility of unfavorable outcomes in pre-hospital emergency care. Also, the lack of knowledge in following the proposed AHA guidelines and chain of survival may lead to an increased morbidity and mortality when not understood and followed appropriately. I think that the AHA has shown that if these guidelines are not followed, then the possibility of comorbidity and mortality do increase. And with a disparity in knowledge, 6.2 as an average, that can be a big deal. And there could be an increased morbidity and mortality. Further research is needed to understand the consequences of this disparity in knowledge in said situations, and whether colleges and universities should or would want to require that they teach BLS skills regardless of major is, I think, we believe, an appropriate conclusion to be made, but further research should go into those. We appreciate your time, and we appreciate you following along with our research. Thank you, and that's the end of the presentation. And here are the references for all the research that we acquired.